So, you know, there was a lot of other situations that had transpired subsequent to that event because I moved from different prisons on my way down. I'll give you another situation. This is very personal that was kind of like a bookend from the beginning of my sentence to the end that really solidified some stuff. To make the story, when I finally knew I was going to have to go to jail, when the police, the 77th Street LAPD homicide division that had actually arrested me, told me that, you know, I'm going to have to go to jail, they had me turn myself in. And so my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and my grandparents took me to the police station. Now my grandparents, I never told them the severity of the case that I was involved in. I thought it was going to go away. I thought it was going to disappear, you know. I hoped it would. And my grandfather, my grandmother, my girlfriend, we all go down to the police station. And they had me in one of those interrogation rooms like you see on TV. And my grandparents and my girlfriend were in there with me. And the detectives come in and say, yeah, we're going to arrest Joseph for the murder of this gentleman. And I looked at my grandfather's face with ultimate shame on me. Ultimate shame on me. And a tear shot down that dude's face. Now my grandfather's a strong man. He's passed away, but he was a strong man. I had never seen him cry. Ever. Seeing him cry that was my sentence right there. That was my punishment right there. They couldn't do nothing worse to me, seeing him cry like that. So I made a commitment to myself that if God was good to me and he would be merciful, that when I got out, I was going to demonstrate to them that they really didn't make a mistake in raising me. You understand what I'm saying? I was going to put my life together and let them see that they really did give me the things that would be reflected in my lifestyle. So that paints the picture. I'm at CMC West in California Men's College, which is in San Luis Obispo. They have a level 3-4 yard there. That's the east yard. I was on the west yard, which is a minimum custody yard because my points are reduced by this time, right? So I was at another family visit. They had a beautiful, relatively beautiful family visit spot. They were like cabins, right, with swings and all this stuff in the backyard. It was really nice compared to the trailers in the other place, right? So my grandparents came up with my wife for one of these conjugal visits, okay? And they had these 2-bedroom spots. It was beautiful, right? Second day into the family visit, because they normally go like 3 days, right? Second day into the family visit, my grandmother wakes me up saying, your grandfather's not feeling well. It's about 2 in the morning. He was having a heart attack. At the family visit site in prison, right? Had to call the ambulance and all this stuff, and they rushed my grandfather off to the local hospital. My grandmother goes with him. My wife stays with me in prison. He recovered, but he was way up in San Luis Obispo, which is 3.5 hours from Los Angeles or more, right? And my wife is driving my grandmother back and forth up there to see my grandfather until they released him. And I just felt like a heel. Because I'm taking him through all of this because I'm in prison. And it just reinforced the fact I'm never coming back here again. Ever. Ever. This is not me. This is ridiculous. That I've taken my family through all this for what? And it just reinforced the point again. And it was the launching pad that really pushed me to deal with what I needed to deal with. I made a determination in my heart I was going to be a personal trainer. So all along this time I'm putting these collages together of the vision of my life when I get out and how I'm going to do things. You know, I had a cap and gown for when I graduate from college when I go home, and this and that and another, all lined up, and it's speaking to my destiny, right? And I carry with me every institution I go to. I finally come home and I'm on the grind. A couple of my buddies who I grew up with, who had become successful in the film TV industry, I ran into when I was at home, and they took me under their wings, and they virtually became my reentry program, because these gentlemen really helped me to find my feet and get myself together and help me gain some self-confidence about what I was bringing to the table and see myself in a different light as opposed to being an ex-convict, right? And so the thing that they encouraged me was my vision. You're a great personal trainer, man. We've worked with people before, but you really know how to take this stuff and make it plain. You should go all the way with it. One of my friends turned me on to a TV show, and I actually got some speaking lines in it and all this stuff, and I met some good people, one of the people being Queen Latifah. And Latifah, she said, you know, you train? I heard you train. She said, I'm looking for a trainer. I said, yeah, I train. And she pulled me, and I started working out with her. And through some conversations with her, she encouraged me to pursue that. And so I went after getting certified, becoming legitimate, and doors opened for me. I ended up working at one of the most prestigious health clubs in Los Angeles, if not the world. There's several located across the United States and a couple globally. The Sports Club LA was the place that I worked, and I ended up getting connected with Magic Johnson through Queen Latifah, and Tyra Banks was one of my clients, and I trained all these incredible people. But one situation stands out in my mind while I was there that just was the punctuation mark of me being on point and pursuing the right path. There was a gentleman who was in one of the pictures in this collage that I had started doing when I was in custody, that I actually met at the Sports Club LA. So when I met this guy, I ran up on him like I knew him and was hugging all on him, and he looked at me like I was crazy because he never saw me or met me before in my life, but I've been seeing him for years from this collage photo of him working out with some lady who I don't know, they were just some people I cut out of a magazine because they looked like this is what I want to do. And I told him the story. I was at a place, I put this collage together, and I use these pictures of these workout scenarios, and you were in this photo with this young lady. So I remember that. Oh my God. I said, man, these were pictures I put together that really were the driving force of me staying the course to study all this stuff and do all these things that I had to do to get to this point to even be here and to see you. It just is, it's the punctuation mark of me being on the right track. And he hugged me back. He's like, well, congratulations, man. I mean, I don't know what I did to that, but you know, I'm so glad to hear that you stayed the course to get to what you really are looking to do. And from being a personal trainer, I made all these great relationships, and I went from there. I knew I wanted to become more business oriented, so I was able, through some of the relationships of the owners of that club, to start transitioning from simply being a personal trainer into more business minded activities. I became a sales representative at one of our affiliate clubs, and I ultimately worked myself up to be the sales manager of this facility, and started learning how to use a computer. And you know, these are in the 90s and the early part of this 2000s and so forth. And from there I got into real estate and had a great run from there. But underneath this thread that was running underneath all these accomplishments that I was achieving as far as my career, I always wanted to work in reentry. I always felt that I had something to offer the community, and guys like me who were coming out of prison, who maybe didn't have the network of people like I had coming home to help focus them or channel that energy or identify ways of utilizing their gifts and talents in a more succinct way, right? But I always kept putting it off, saying, well, when I get rich, or when I finally get to this place or that place, then I'm going to do it because I'll be able to, right? But that never happened. And God had plans of allowing me to accumulate all these accomplishments to build my confidence and my self-esteem as far as my abilities, but to never let those things be the laurels that I rested on in doing the work that I was really supposed to be doing. So once all of this stuff accumulated, he snatched all of it from underneath me and left me with just he and I. And nothing but the dream that was there in the beginning of helping my people. And he directed my steps and put me in an avenue that I had never even considered or thought of or even knew existed, which was working at these work source centers 4 years ago. And And
what is the Work Source Center? What exactly is it?
The Work Source Centers are County of LA, City. I mean, they're national. They're all over. And they're run through workforce investment boards, and there's all these local workforce investment boards that are a combination of private sector, public sector, employers, politicians, representatives from various workforce development agencies that create and monitor and oversee the funds from the federal government that are through the Workforce Investment Act, right? So the Workforce Investment Act is the money from the federal government that is geared towards social programs to help the local communities that are in these disenfranchised areas to get trained or have access to viable employment opportunities, right? So from these workforce investment boards, there are work source centers or one-stop centers that deal with either youth or adults who need these services. So it's this kind of hierarchy thing. The federal government, the WIA Act, the Workforce Investment Act, has allocated these dollars that funnel through these local workforce investment boards that get to these local work source centers or these one-stop centers, right?
How did you get that job?
God, and I mean that most sincerely. I had lost my business in real estate. I had some partners, and we had opened up about 6 mortgage offices through the boom of the real estate era from 2002 till around 2006, right? I did really well from 2003 to around 2006. I'm talking about really well, and accumulated a bunch of stuff, mostly debt, but it was okay when you're doing what you do on a monthly basis as far as your income is concerned. And you're accumulating all these assets with this future expectation of a return on it. So I'm buying all these properties and I'm holding on to them, and it's a lot of money going out, but it's okay. I'm making a lot of money coming in, and I'm going to get through this. Late 2006, early 2007, we felt the market changing, and by March of 2007, the market was gone, and we got all this overhead and no income. And so we're bleeding out of our own personal reserves, trying to salvage things, thinking this can't last too long. It's going to turn on in a few months. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So by June of 2007, I was looking at bankruptcy court, considering how am I going to change this situation with my oldest daughter now on her way to college. My wife hasn't worked in 7, 8, 9 years, well, about 6 or 7 years at that time. And I've been taking care of everything. What am I going to do? And I realized I had to let go of a lot of stuff. So I gave back all the cars. Told them come get all the keys to these houses. You can come have all this back. And I let a lot of that stuff go. And when I got to that broken, honest place where I couldn't hide behind another car or another watch or another house or another fancy dinner, the honesty of what I really wanted came out. I knew I wasn't going to make X amount of dollars anymore, and that was fine at the time. I just wanted to do something that was just as substantive as the monetary benefit of my actions, but from an intrinsic satisfaction now. What really substituted joy that money never could, right? And I was actually working these little odd jobs trying to get myself grounded again. And I was working for this company, and one day I was driving home and I said, I can't do this no more. And I called my guy and said, I want to thank you for the opportunity you've given me. I really appreciate you seeing something in me in terms of this opportunity, but it's not me, and I'm not going to come in tomorrow. I apologize for any inconvenience it caused you. And I was out of work. So by the time, from leaving that job and before I got home, because I knew I had to have an option, because my wife ain't just going to feel that you didn't want to work at this place no more. I stopped by the EDD, the local employment development office, and I just got on the computer and I said, God, you got to help me. I'm lost. I do not know what to do. and I put in my parameters as far as what I wanted to do, and gave me these listed job leads back, and this job that I'm doing now was one of those jobs. And I started reading through the description. I said, and it wasn't exactly what I was interested in terms of working with ex-offenders, but the nature of the work, I could see the potential of it leading me into that. You know what I'm saying? And besides, it had benefits and all these other things that my family needed. So it was just perfect scenario. So I printed it out. I rushed home with it. I tweaked my resume, put everything together, drew up a cover letter that kind of talked about my experiences, that voluntary stuff that I've done with all the churches that I work with in the city of Los Angeles. Bishop Clarence McClendon, Bishop Noel Jones. I mean, some really heavyweight people in the city that I've lent, my experiences to, and given to the ministries, and just really helped do the thing that we do that I never got paid for. I didn't even think it valuable. I just said, this is what I do. What became valuable at that moment, because I was able to tie it all in to the mission of this particular job that I was seeking, right? And I faxed it over to the director of the program, and I got a call back in like 2 hours. Unbelievable. And this lady was saying, I want to meet you, and I want to schedule time to bring in an interview. I like what I see from your information. And we went from there. I met her. We had a almost 2.5 hour conversation when I first met her. It wasn't even an interview. It was a conversation. And 4 years later, I'm the coordinator over the South LA's reentry program. That is the paradigm for the whole state of California, with this California New Start model that the Department of Corrections has partnered with the California Workforce Investment Board, who is the umbrella to all of these local workforce investment boards. And they use the model that we've created here in South LA for a blueprint of what they're trying to do across the whole state as far as tying workforce services and the reentry intent of the Department of Corrections adult parole to help these guys who are coming out. We have a crisis here in California when it comes to reentry. We have 160, 170,000 people in custody here. 95% of those people are coming home at some point in time. We in South LA get about 40% of the parolees that release in a year. Right here in our local area, Region 3 of the California Department of Corrections Adult Division of Parole is the highest populated area for parolees in our whole state. California is one of the highest states for incarcerated individuals as far as prison is concerned in the nation. Texas is up there, and we're neck and neck. So being in the position I'm in and having the responsibilities I have in the short amount of time that I've been in the role that I'm in is amazing. And the responsibilities just keep growing, but the more the responsibilities grow, the more I find myself equipped and prepared to actually manage them. And I'm so grateful that everything fell apart the way it did, because if it didn't, I would have still been on this idealistic point of view that I'm gonna make this money and change the world, when I probably will change the world, but it's not coming through the approach that I had prescribed initially. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So how do you now, in closing, how do you now intend to do your part in changing the world? What is your intent at this moment going forward?
I put it like this. My intent is to work with individuals who served at least a decade or more in prison, and find a way of taking advantage of the experiences that they've gained while they were in custody to bring solutions to the questions that they had. Because I've identified that if we can bring solutions individual by individual to the issues that are raised for their particular needs, we can find a collective solution to this problem as a whole. 1 or 2, 3 or 4 individuals represent the majority typically, as far as the needs that we find and we try to remedy in the lives of most individuals coming with the circumstances that I described in the beginning, the 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in prison. Because they're not coming without skills or motivation. They're just coming without direction. And I think that there's enough resource in the local area. It's just not being allocated or appropriated correctly, because you got a lot of people in positions who don't know how to really manage their position. And so they're working from a pretentious point of view. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing what appears to be the right thing, but it has no weight when it comes to change, because I'm not engaging the people that really can show me how to appropriate what I have.
Let me ask you, when I graduated high school in the mid-70s, you line up 10 brothers. 8 of us are going to figure out how to make a legitimate living, whether it be going to college or trade school or a factory down the road. Mm-hmm. Now, 8 out of 10 brothers are going to be incarcerated. There are about 68 of them going to be incarcerated. So it seemed to me that our human capital lies in the very population that you're reaching out to. So how do we as a society, how do we get society to understand that we need to invest heavily into the very group, if we want to turn this thing around on the streets, if we want to reach these young brothers and sisters on the streets, the very people that you're working with are the very ones who have the solutions and the answers?
I got one word that comes to mind that ties both sides to the table, and it's acceptance. It's acceptance. Acceptance in the sense of, I'm going to accept you for who you are. I'm not going to preconceive how I want you to be, or I'm not going to judge you or prejudice you by my biases, but I'm going to accept you. And in finding the bridge that takes me from my existential world and coming into your existential world, finding the balance between what I bring to the table in my socialized, comfortable, middle-class, bourgeois life to your traumatized, gang-riddled, drug-infested, no stability history, to find where can we meet in the middle to take the future into a different direction. So most people I meet who've never engaged the criminal, the ex-offender, once they have a chance to really engage and see that this is a person who has a real sensibility about him, just didn't have any opportunity. Wow, you remind me of somebody I know. And I find middle ground or commonality between you and I, and now the prejudice and the biases begin to melt away. We got to come to the table like that. We come to the table, and it has happened in the past, but everybody's coming with their biases and their judgments from both sides. The ex-offender, y'all don't understand, y'all judging me, this, that, and another. And the normal citizen coming with, y'all lazy, you ain't gonna do nothing no way, this is a waste of money. Right? Getting past that. Now, how do we do that? I don't know, Brother Sami. But I do know that I'm committed to the piece that I play. And I hope that in what I become and what I am aspiring to actualize into, I'm committed to on a daily basis, that I can show that the potential is there if we just take the time. Because I was one of these guys. But something happened in me, and an awakening occurred, and I found myself, and now I'm on a path that's guiding me to a place where the sky truly is the limit, for real. Meeting you and sitting down and seeing that others are out there that think and feel and are connected on a level that just is mind-blowing.
Along that line, my cousin, Tommy Morgan Jr., producer here in L.A., told me, he said, you I got a guy you have to meet. And he kept bugging me until we got together. I understand he played an integral part in your life early on. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I alluded to him a second ago without necessarily putting his name out there. Tommy Morgan Jr., your cousin, is one of my best friends. He's a pretty recognized film actor, TV actor, who's now gone on the side of behind-the-scenes production. We grew up together, and when I came home, I just randomly and just happenstantially ran into him at the DMV when I was trying to get my ID and driver's license or whatever they would give me when I'm first, getting out. And he embraced me. And when I told him where I had been and what I had gone through, he refused to let me leave there without making sure we had a way to communicate with each other. Because he was blown away that I had gotten into that kind of trouble. And Tommy Morgan and another gentleman, whose name is Bentley Kyle Evans, they were my re-entry program. These guys were my re-entry program. They were my New Start LA. They were my Work Source Center. They were my hit the ground running, and I'm not going to let you go. You're going to stay focused. Because there were times in that beginning, sleeping on my mother-in-law's floor with my wife, you know what I'm saying? That my pride started to get the best of me, and I wanted to go and make a quick run, hook up with my cousin and them, and do something to put a little money in my pocket. And these guys wouldn't let me go, and they kept me focused, and they showed me that even though it's slower, and even though it's more difficult, it's going to be better in the long run. And they didn't lie. You know what I'm saying? So I say all the time, between Tommy and Bentley, every life I touch now, they have a piece of that life to their account. Every life I touch, every person who feels that I've been an asset to them in one way or another in terms of helping them adjust or transition or turn their life around or get themselves together, Tommy and Bentley have a piece of that.
Well, this has been an incredible interview. I always say, brother, that on a plantation a long time ago, there's a little old lady. She's 42 years old, but she looks like she's 82. She's been raped repeatedly, sold and shuffled around, lost so many kids she can't remember. And I always believe, and I feel this woman viscerally. I feel her in the deepest of my soul. And I think the only thing that kept her alive is that she went to bed every night looking at the moon, and she woke up every morning to see that rising sun, knowing that one day I would be on earth. And I'm saying the same thing with regard to you. One day you were going to be here. So you were the dream of somebody who went through unimaginable pain. So God bless you, Joe Paul.
Thank you, sir.
Peace, brother.
Peace.